Kick off this morning out in Australia with Mukesh Sahdev, founder and CEO of Xanalysts. Mukesh, what's your reading at this stage, 1 week into this ceasefire? What do you think the next week brings?
Hi, Sean and everyone. Good to be back on your show. How to read? I think I had called when this ceasefire came, Sean. It was a 2 week ceasefire, and my view was it's a 2 week ceasefire, and we have seen that. So going forward, my view is that this blockade of Hormuz, which US has planned, in some ways, in my mind, from an analysis angle, could be a masterstroke. It strangles the Iranian finances. It strangles the China's hold because most of the Iran's oil is going to China. It avoid U.S. entanglement on the ground and the risky thing of taking Hormuz or Kurg Island. And just by not doing much, just blockading the ships, US is able to increase the pain for Iran, pain for China, and could that lead to negotiation in terms of on the US terms? Possible. So all I can say is every day is an effort to increase the pain for Iran and China and hope that they come to the table.
Mukesh, talk us through your masterstroke thesis here, and where does it connect to being market relevant? The oil markets are falling today, as Leonam made out. The smart money is not buying that this is consequential. Your thoughts?
Couple of points, Sean. Of course, geopolitics we can't predict, but there are a few things we can predict. One, I believe, what China is worried not about if US blocks Iran and Iran asks Houthis to block the Bab al-Mandeb, that's the real deal. That's where US is probably hoping Iran would do certain actions, and that puts the pressure on China, and then China puts pressure on Iran to get to the deal. Since the war started, or even before the war started.
Whoa. So the double block on the Strait of Hormuz puts the Iranians into triggering a greater shutdown of the Bab el-Mandeb. The combination of both puts a greater stress on China, who then circles back and whacks the Iranians back to Islamabad. That's the circle.
The only reason why we have not seen Houthis act is because all of the Saudi barrels were actually going to China. If those Saudi barrels were going to some other country, Houthis would have likely attacked. The other thing is that Saudis are maximizing usage of the Red Sea, which has pushed back all Russian barrels which were going to India. So my view is that the road to Beijing is from Caracas, which Washington has gone, Moscow, and Tehran. So at the end of the day, this is all creating leverage in somehow negotiating a better deal with China. And the only reason why US is not able to do is because China prepared for 10 years and China built huge stocks. If China did not have those 1.5 billion barrels of oil, things would have been different. So I guess this is creating leverage. This is creating pain. And in some ways, I would also say, Sean, this is like you go into an operation theater, you start the operation, and now US has left. I will not do. So it's every day the pain is increasing for Iran, for China, for all the Asian countries, which eventually will go to the Washington and say, please stop this. Of course, US will extract the right terms and deals. So it's creating pain without increasing the cost of the war.
Are we likely to see a lot more crude come to market rather than products, or where do you see the problem?
Excellent question, Sean. You're right. As I've been maintaining, the big problem is in the products versus the crude. Crude, we still have alternate sources in the world, and things can be, made up. And people have stored crude. People don't have 1.4 billion barrels of product stored like in China. We have crude stored. The product side of the problem, Sean, is Europe has been on an attrition, US has been on attrition, even China started closing refineries, Indonesia. So across the globe, the only beacon of hope for refined products market was Middle East. which touched almost 6-7 million barrels per day of product exports. So with these refineries damages, my view is that refineries, when they are shut down in a proper planned manner, they come back easily. Now, when you shut down a refinery under the attack of a threat, you press the shutdown button and the equipment damages, we probably don't know a lot. I've operated refineries for 10 years in India, so I've seen what it means to do a proper shutdown and it means to do an emergency shutdown. So refineries would struggle to come back. So even if the same level of crude production comes, it means more crude exports available because those crudes might not go into these refineries. So to come back to the same export levels, let's say pre-war, you don't need the same production levels. And then the challenge, maybe the last point, Sean, would be these Middle Eastern refineries were exporting a lot of light ends to Asia and jet and diesel to Europe, and they were keeping other products for their own consumption. My worry is that if these refineries are damaged, there could be a chance that the Gulf countries would have to import products, especially the ones they need for themselves. So we are in, I would say, a much more bigger problem for the Gulf countries and from a refining angle. And crude may be okay after some time, but products will not let crude be okay.